Winner of this one will play Wheeling Central tomorrow for a spot in states. Bottom of the third is where we'll start. Sky Dobbs hits a ball that'll get through the infield and bring home a couple of runs as the Lady Dragons put up 5 in the inning for a 5-1 lead. Maybe a little bit surprising. After being down 7-2, St. Mary's trying to come back here. Bottom of the fifth, 2 runners on. Briley McGrady turns on a ball. That'll get down the left field line. 2 runs will come across the score, but McGrady thrown out at third. St. Mary's will take the runs, though. Bottom of the sixth, Mia Christensen rips the ball into left. She comes through with the RBI single. That makes it a 1-run ball game, 7-6. Now in the seventh, Jayla Cox drives in the game-tying run. Throw from the outfield to home. Going to get to the backstop, so the winning run waved around third, but is going to be out at the plate. Bang, bang play. So we go to extras, and with 2 runners in scoring position, Autumn Mosser smokes one through the infield, and the Lady Blue Devils walk it off. 8-7 the final.